True Story Tuesday. Frank Abagnale Jr. The true story behind Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. Frank Abagnale is an American French security consultant, author, and he's a convicted felony of a lot of schemes and fraud that he did back in his younger years. Frank was known to target more of small businesses or individual people. Now, when Frank was younger, he was wild. He was out there. It was many claims that he had so many occupations that he had scammed so many people. He claimed to be a U.S. General Attorney in Louisiana, served as a hospital physician in Georgia. He even impersonated a Pan American World Airways pilot, logging in over 2 million air miles by just deadheading. And deadheading is when you're carrying something free of charge, a transport of one's staff, a passenger, so that they can get to the right place for duty. So basically, he was just flying free and getting miles from that. Now, even though he was being known to do all of these things, it was said that a lot of this was fabrication and lie. That he never did a lot of the things that he said he did, including he actually said that he was an informant for the FBI, you guys. So Frank Abagnale Jr., born in April 27, 1948 in New York. New York, was born to his mom and dad, who later divorced when he was around the age of 20. And it seems that's when the age, going on to like age 14, 15 is when his crime spree started. Like his first victim was a neighbor where he stole a credit card and he even stole their car and, kind of went and bought gas and was just riding around in the car. It said that he was sent to a reform school in Westchester, New York, but there was never any records or photos indicating that he was ever registered there. In December of 1964, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy when he was just 16 years old, and after 3 months, he was released around February 1965. And it was saying about 2 weeks later, he got some petty larceny charge. And he continued to just go around New York committing petty crimes until he was eventually thrown into a cycle ward. Well, at least that's what they say. So by later in 1965, Abagnale was arrested by the FBI in Eureka, California due to car theft from a neighbor that he had stolen it from. Now, it was said that he was pictured in the local newspaper for this crime right here, and that he had been stealing blank checks financing the trip from New York to California. It was then said that the stolen vehicle, had to be transferred back to New York, but he had to stay in California and do some time. So by the time Frank was 17, he decided to impersonate a pilot, and he used the money that he had prior committed the crimes in 65 earlier, where he did the forgery of checks to buy a pilot uniform. He was lying like he completed pilot school in Fort Worth, Texas, but he was later on charged with the petty theft crimes and sent back to New York prison. So by December the 24th, 1968, he was 20 years old. He was back on it. He was released from prison and he was back on the thrill of being a pilot again. So it said after that he ended up meeting this girl, talked his way into their home. Her daddy was a like a music teacher. He ended up clicking up with a minister and he kind of got the vibes in. And somebody, I think it was the music teacher, he was working at Louisiana State University. And that's how he ended up getting into the school system. But Frank wasn't as smart as he thought, because after a while, people was catching on to him and they was notifying, like doing some background checks, and they was notifying, and then they was putting the police on him. So after that, Frank would move on to the next assignment. So by 1969, Frank was all the way over in Europe committing crime. It said that he ended up being sentenced to 4 months in prison over in France, but he only did 3 for the theft of an automobile. By 1970, he was expedited back to the United States, where again he was on the mission to be a pilot. He ended up all the way at the University of Arizona, where he was claiming to be a pilot and a doctor, 2 for 1, y'all. He was writing and passing out bad checks like it was good candy and pretending to be a recruiter and a trainer for the stewardess. So basically going around lying, getting these pretty young girls to go travel with him, lying like he was, running a training program for stewardess. And actually he was being all kind of creepy too, because Frank not only was, like I said, lying about being a pilot, he was also lying about being a doctor, and he was giving these girls physicals. Yep. So by summer of 1970, it was saying that he caught the attention of the FBI in California because he was out there throwing around them bad checks. pretending for them to be payroll for the Pan Am pilot, company. Now, Frank seemed like he did more crime and time than a little bit. So it's saying by 1978, he finally had got him a wife named Kelly. They had three sons. They was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They stayed there in the same house for 25 years. And after Frank's sons graduated from college, they decided to move to South Carolina. Now, y'all, it is so much with Frank. I mean, it is so much, y'all. I really had got a knipsey with a capital K trying to, like dialogue this story. But the main kicker about the whole situation with Frank is that they say that Frank was lying. Like Frank was being paid to go around and talk to colleges and tell them about these stories, and Frank was writing, memoirs and stuff, books, and like yeah, all kind of different kind of book titles, and saying that he did it, and if I did, if you can catch me, la la la. But a lot of the people that he was committing these crimes to was like, we don't never remember any of this happening. Now, the only truth they say was documented when he was younger and he did end up going to prison, I mean, like jail, juvenile jail, prison for about 3, 4 years. But there's nothing else on his record where it said that he was FBI informant, that he went to prison, that he was locked up overseas, that he was impersonating all these jobs. So what I want to know, y'all, do y'all think Frank actually, Lil Young Tail, was doing all that? Because the math really ain't math. A lot of the dates are running in together. A lot of the time does not make sense. He was even exposed at one of the colleges. He got older trying to tell these stories, and they wanted him to sign waivers saying like, hey, you can say you did this, but you have to tell us, are you lying or not? Y'all, Frank got mad about that. Probably because he know he lying. And I think he 100% a con artist. Sometimes people think of a lot of stuff that they want to do and don't really do it. But what I'm asking y'all, do y'all think Frank really did all of this crazy stuff? Y'all think he got away with it? Like, got past the law, was getting over conning people out of hundreds and thousands of dollars? Like, do y'all think the police, the FBI, and all above that was involved just don't want to say that they was tricked by a kid, a youngster? Y'all let me know in the comments, okay? Because Frank, he was something else.